Have sound
A little
before.
fuzzy. Oh, here we go. Now we're on. Hey, everyone. Hey,
Hey,
good morning.
good
Good
morning.
Good
Here
morning.
we are
morning.
again. That seemed like so fake, like, talk show, game show hosty. Hey, here we are. How's everyone doing? I
Nobody
don't.
really cares.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So, good morning. Yesterday was Mother's Day, right?
It
hmm
was.
It was.
Congratulations. We were talking last week about the stresses on moms. We
Hmm.
were freaking out a little bit about how tough it can be. Everything's coming at you at once, and it's such a thankless job. But presumably, you were all thanked yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And what form did that take?
There were cards and flowers and handmade gifts, which were always sweet.
Nice.
So it was nice. Very, very nice.
Good. Trish, Corinne?
Smoothies in bed.
Same thing. I got cards,
Yeah.
I got flowers, but I actually got my laundry folded too. So that was a big win.
Oh, that's a win.
Really?
Yeah, my daughter
That's,
my
you
daughter folded it for me, and then Mike made me breakfast, so it was nice.
well, you're looking very wrinkle free today. I must say.
Thanks.
Anytime.
Not your face,
So,
your clothing.
Oh, sorry. Oops, never mind.
okay. Um, I have to get my bearings now. So here's what we're going to talk about today, and I think this is very important. Most people are not aware that we have multiple ways to help them. They think that we're a one-trick pony. We only have one thing that we can do. People talk about the program like there's only a program, and meanwhile we have multiple programs. We have multiple ways to help people at every single price point.
Yep.
So I want to clarify that today. And I also want to get into a little bit about what it is that we're doing on the program scientifically, and more importantly, I think, in order to support people. The science is massively important. It's one of the differentiators. We're able to do things with the body that people are unaware of, but they definitely feel the results. And it's super important that these things happen. But also, it has to be practical. It has to be doable. I think that's one of the keys to our programs is that they are so easy and they're so doable. And that is massively important for anyone who's ever found themselves overwhelmed trying to lose weight and get healthier.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's what we're going to get into today on this day after Mother's Day. So, Trish,
Mhm.
our programs, what are the different tiers of our programs if you were going to break them down?
So do you mean like the Premier Classic kind of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have, 10-day programs. We offer two forms of 20-day programs and two
Uh-huh.
forms of a 40-day program, one being Premier and one being Classic
That's right.
program.
Good. So I do want to clarify a couple of things. Our programs, we call them 10-day, 20-day, 40-day because that's how long the detox portion lasts. But it is a mistake to think of our programs as just the detox portion. We always start out with the detox because we have to clean things up. If the engine is messy, if it's full of gunk and rust, we've got to scrub that. But
Hmm.
programs are much more than that, and we can get into kind of the structure of that. But as you were saying, we have different lengths for people who have different needs, right? The 10-day program, let's start out kind of here. The 10-day program, Jackie, what's the purpose of the 10-day for people? What do we call it?
I like to go, well, so a 10-day launch. So it's really more or less a
The launch.
Kickstarter.
That's
So
right.
it's really, I mean, it really is a suitable fit for anyone. And I'll tell you why. It's really where you don't know where to begin, you don't know how to get started, you know you need help, you're not sure you believe you can
Hmm.
commit, you're not sure if you believe this will work. So this is a sweet spot for everybody. 10 days is something essentially anyone can commit to, and it really does show massive results. You're getting those pounds off in 10 days. That's almost like, well, I don't want to stop once you hit day 5. And that's even being halfway there.
Yes.
Hmm.
I think you nailed it, right? Because the problem we're trying to address with the 10-day launch is problems of getting started, problems of being overwhelmed, of not knowing what to do,
Yeah.
of having like um, just there's too much going on. You can't get your head
Different
around it.
things. Yeah, there's
You don't
different
know
things.
which
You
way
can't
to
make
go.
decisions, so
Right.
you do nothing. You know, some
Yeah.
people end up doing nothing, and it's also really good for people if you've never done it or if you've done our program previously and you catch yourself doing things you shouldn't and your weight starts to creep. It's
Right.
that 5 pound mark, and you're like, oh, it's just 5 pounds.
There you go. So,
It's
for
not-
example, Patricia B recently did the 10-day launch. She's someone who's done unbelievably well, and yet she found herself creeping a little bit. And she said, "Okay, I'm doing a 10-day launch." In 10 days, she lost 9 pounds, and she's someone who started out at well under 200 pounds. So it was just massively effective. She loved it. She gave us some feedback. It's the best thing we ever did.
Mhm.
So that's basically the 10-day launch. You jump in, you
Yeah.
don't have to think. There are no barriers to entry. It's
Yeah.
inexpensive. It's easy to do.
It's fun. That's also for someone who wants to do it with a friend. Let's do 10 days. Let's get kickstarted. Let's start walking together. Let's start doing exercise. Let's get some recipes, make it fun, cook together, food prep together.
Yeah.
Friends, husbands. It's just very easy and it's attainable for a family too.
Corinne, would you say that the 10-day launch could best be characterized as a kick in the ass?
It's a kick
I like
to get you started, and it motivates you to want to keep on going because you realize, okay, it's only 10 days. And
That's
then
right.
you simply break it down and you say, okay, I can do another 10 days. And then you just slowly begin to feel like I can do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's so important what you were just saying, because how often do people hang around in can'ts? I can't do it. It's too much. I've got too much going on, right? So, yes, the 10-day is very clear proof that a person can do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of its functions as well, right? So we have the 10-day. Trish mentioned also we have two longer programs. We have a 20-day detox. We have a 40-day detox. Again, the detox portion is just where they start. These are 3-month programs, right? And within those lengths, also we have two different tiers. So we have the classic, and then we have the base, which is like the basic, right? And then we have the premier. So the way it's designed for people is they're both Rolls Royces.
Mhm.
One of them is just your basic run-of-the-mills Rolls Royce, if there's such a thing,
Mhm.
right? The other one is the Rolls Royce that comes with the driver and
Yeah.
the concierge. That's basically how that goes, right? So the basic program or the classic program, you're not texting a coach daily. You're still supported. You come in once a week, you get weighed in. If you have questions, you call the office, you can text. But it's not a texting every day, right?
Daily support.
It's just a different level of support. Some people don't want that. Some people, say, well, I'd rather pay a little less because I'm a type A. I don't need to do that. So why bother with it? It'll only, be another thing.
Right.
Other people desperately need that check-in every
You need
day.
the accountability.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is that the basic or the classic, it comes with what we call our core 4 supplements. And so the core 4 is the core 4 enough? Absolutely. The premier comes with the core 4 supplements plus another 4 supplements which are personalized for people based on their body's needs. So it's more of a well-rounded wellness program is what I would say. Okay. Trish, in the office, in your experience, what is it that people usually desire more, and what is it that they usually get more? Is it the classic or the premier?
I would definitely say the premiere, only, especially people that are first time to our office and doing the program. The premiere is a great way because it is the
Right.
daily support. So you're getting the one-on-one with a coach daily. You're texting your weight every day and any questions. So if anything arises right away, it can be corrected. So
Yep.
that's a great way, and then the extra stuff your body needs, like supplement support. That's always great on the Premier. Not to say that the classic basic isn't, but I feel like more seasoned people tend to go towards the classic. Premier is great way to start out and get started right away.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I have to say, so we have a policy in the office that we talk about, which is we always make the best recommendation for the client.
Correct.
And the best recommendation, more often than not, for people who are new to us, is the Premier program.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, we do think of everything. It's not just the scientific aspect, the physiological aspect.
Oh yeah.
But it's also
Right.
that extra support, that
Mhm.
accountability that's on a daily basis. So those are the two fundamental differences between the classic program and the Premier program. Now, let me throw this out to you guys. Let's pretend that you never came in, that you didn't work for me, and you had a question about the Premier program. So we'll talk about the Premier, right? It's the Rolls Royce with the butler and the concierge service. Okay. So what would your questions be about the Premier program?
I have one.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I think I need to lose 25 pounds. So I have to do the 40-day, but you said it's 3 months or longer.
Correct.
Why?
Okay, good question. All right. As I said before, we always start out with a detox, right? Little known fact, in the presence of toxins, your body wants to protect you from them. So it will take the toxins, it will store them in fat. If you are toxic, you're a toxic person. If you have a lot of toxins in your body, which most of us do, we're in New Jersey, then your body is incentivized to hold on to the fat. So we want to disincentivize it by detoxing, right? So that's always what we do first. We always start out with that detox. But we're not done then, because after the detox, whether it's a 20-day or a 40-day, we go into another phase of the program. Now, this is a very key phase. Raise your hand if you've ever lost weight and gained weight. Yeah. Okay, good.
Dr.
So that's everyone. Yeah. It's right. So most people who have lost weight in the past have gained it back, right? And it turns out that the body wants that. There is an area of the brain, it's called the hypothalamus. It works like a thermostat. Its job is, regarding weight, it has a lot of jobs, but regarding weight, it sets what's called the weight set point. It tends to bring you back to what it knows. It's like ET. It wants to go home. If you lose 25 pounds, it wants to bring you back to what it knows. You go from 200 to 175. It wants to bring you back to 200. So it'll actually install a program, almost, think in computer terms, that slows down your metabolism, that makes you hungrier.
That's crazy.
It has to do with survival. The body's all about survival, which is not always how we want it, right? We want survival to look like, we look fabulous all the time. It's thinking more in terms of bringing us back to what's known.
Right.
Okay? So this other phase that we do, this reset phase, will prevent that whole process. And thus, if it is done right, it will stop you from going back. People are amazed by this. The detox portion is low calorie. The reset is very high calorie. It's often higher than a person was eating before the program.
Yep.
And yet, they don't gain weight back on the reset if it's done right. And in fact, people will lose fat on that phase.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. Conceptually, what we're doing is it's like training a dog, right? So the dog wants to go, and we're saying, no, stop. We're preventing it from going where it wants, and we're retraining it. That's the way to think about it conceptually. Excellent question. Corinne, what other questions?
Why? I would say, what's the difference between the Premier and the Classic, and why do you call the Premier the Rolls Royce versus the Classic, or the
They're both Rolls Royces. Remember, the Premier has the butler and the concierge service, right? And the jacuzzi in the back. Now, I'm extending this metaphor too far.
Cooler.
Yeah. So here's what I want people to understand about the Classic program. It is awesome. They're both awesome. The Classic program is the one that the study was done on. Actually, there's been 2 studies with our program. The Classic was the first, or rather, the first study was done with the Classic. The reason why is this. When they do scientific studies, the gold standard is when there's a control group, right? So you're able to compare a study, one group against another group. In order to do that, you have to have everyone doing the same thing that are in each group. So when the Classic was studied, the Classic has the 4 core supplement. That's all that was done. Everyone got the 4 core supplements, and everyone got the same food plan.
Oh.
Okay.
Same age, so everything was the same? Or was it
Well, no. The people weren't necessarily the same. It wasn't the same age, but
so someone had to lose 20 pounds, someone had to lose 10.
Yeah, they controlled for as many factors as they could, right? But you have to do that. In other words, you couldn't have people taking all different kinds of supplements.
No.
That's how these studies work. So as great as the results were, the results could have been better because it wasn't like the people were getting coached and things were tweaked and they were getting personalized supplements. It was the same thing for everybody.
Yeah.
So the Classic has been scientifically validated. It's been validated to be safe and to be effective. And then we have the Premier. Now, the other study was what's called a prospective study. That is not when there are 2 groups compared against one another, right? There's no control group.
Okay.
That is where you basically kind of follow a bunch of people, or statistically you look back and see what people did. And this study was found out, and this wasn't the Classic, this was the Premier, and it was discovered that the average weight loss was 26.2 pounds in 40 days. It was all done on the 40-day Premier program.
That's the average.
That was the average.
Than that.
Well, of course, and that's why it's an average, right? Because you don't expect a 150-pound female to lose 30 pounds. So so that's kind of how those studies work, and that's why we know that the Classic is super effective as well, and that's also why it has a guarantee. So they both have guarantees. We guarantee, we stand behind what we do. Okay, good question. Trish, what questions do you have?
So I love the idea of the core 4 for both programs.
Yes.
But you said
I'll have to get into that. Wait, I'll just stop you for a sec. I'll have to get into the core 4. So what the core 4 means is these are the same 4 supplements that everybody gets.
It's like your baseline, baseline support.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry, Trish. Go ahead.
Wonderful. So that's great. So you mentioned that you get additional supplements. How is that determined for my program?
Juicy questions. You would think that I was feeding you these questions, and really, I did not.
Did not.
There's no prep work done at all, if you can't tell. Okay. So the way we determine it is the first thing we do with the Premier program is we have a person take an evaluation. The evaluation is done using something called AI technology, artificial intelligence. We've discussed this in the past. Unfortunately, this is the technology that is going to end up taking over the world and killing us all.
Terminator style.
Yeah, this is Terminator. This is the thing, right? Eventually, the machines are going to realize that we're not necessary because they think better than we do.
They don't need
but until then, what did you say?
They don't need coffee to survive.
That's right. They don't need anything that way. They don't have emotions. They don't. I mean, frankly they're much easier to deal with. But
There's no hugging. There's no nothing.
yeah,
They just do their job.
you know, yes, they don't need to be coddled at all.
No coddling.
But until they kill us all, they're
Until
very useful.
Mhm.
The tech is amazing, right? This is the thing with tech is unfortunately, there's a tipping point. We haven't reached it yet. So right now, AI technology is useful, except when it comes to social media, because then it pits everyone against each other in a death match. But we're able to use it. We're able to use it to help customize the ideal program for each individual. So how that works is this: using this proprietary software, people enter in a bunch of data about themselves. So everything
Mhm.
from their sleep to their body type to
Medication,
any medications, anything
health
they've been
history.
diagnosed with. And what the AI technology does is it has access to this gigantic database of health problems and it's able to learn and it knows what's
Mhm.
best, not only health problems, but just what's best for a given individual utilizing 80 billion factors. That is not a true representation. I don't know how many factors, but it can utilize a lot. It can correlate a lot more things than a human being can, right? Having said that, I will use my own clinical experience also to make recommendations, and so the humans are still necessary. That's the good news.
Can
Okay.
I add to that, Dr. Arlo, real quick?
Yes.
So when we go to our doctors, any doctor, we may walk in and have to fill out paperwork, our family history. And some offices, yes, it's done by computer and you're entering it manually, but it's just there and stored. If you go in, you have to handwrite, check off any symptoms you may have, check off your family health history, your mother's side, father's side, siblings, your children, so on and so forth. When it comes to going there for help, that's a glance and overview. That's just kind of stored and filed for reference for your physician. When you come here, when you're using that as a point of reference of where you are, that's how we determine how to help you from that point. So it's a little different where I feel like we're kind of attacking it at the source and then helping you come out of it. Whereas a lot of times, if you go to a medical professional, and this is not one better than the other, but in just comparing, it's very important to always be honest about your health history too. And you fill these out. I do notice we've had some clients that are like, well, how do I see myself? Well, does this really matter? Because they're afraid to kind of be truthful about entering how they feel, how they
Mm.
look, anything going on, any medication. I just think it's important for people to understand that that determines what we can do to help you going further.
Right. We utilize these tools in order to create the best program for a given individual.
Yes.
It's also able to it's also able to track an individual between programs. So let's say somebody does a subsequent program. Well, now they're re-entering their information, and the computer is able to tell us what needs to be done differently given what's changed in the interim.
Mhm. Right.
And that is also very valuable. And don't forget, it's learning. And that's one of the advantages of AI technology, which is still helpful because it still needs humans.
You always need humans. It's ridiculous. We shouldn't go any other way.
Well, you say that as a human. Now, good. So, do we have a good overview? Like, does this make sense?
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
want to make sure that people listening understand the program. And what I want to do is, Jack, I'll let you speak for a moment, but I want to go over kind of like our process, like what
Yes.
we do step by step. Go
So
ahead, Jack.
that's pretty much what I was going to jump into next, because if I was sitting there and having a consultation with you and you hear all this information and we're like, okay, we're going into it, I just want to reiterate that the detox phase equals the weight loss phase. So when we discuss our phases, also the number of phases we have, because a lot of times there's a lot of confusion when we come in, when people start to, say day one is this, phase one is, they get very confused that they go together. And I want them to understand the breakdown of each and why we label it that way. So for example, phase one, phase two, 3,
Well,
4.
everything has a purpose. It's a very well thought out program, and it's also the kind of program that is taking the best from other programs.
Oh yeah, it's a hybrid.
Yes. So here's the process. When a person comes in to the office, the first thing we do is obviously we do a consultation, right? We weigh a person in on our body composition analysis, and then that person and we sit down, we have a conversation. Now, our consultations are very different. And the reason they're different is because my emphasis is on having a person finally, at long last, understand what's going on. Not every doctor operates that. If I had $1 for every time someone came in upset because their doctor told them they need to lose weight, and then when they asked the doctor what to do, he would say, well, eat less and exercise more. Like just some kind of a generic statement, right? Nothing is learned, nothing changes, it's just more frustration.
Yeah.
So what we notice in our consultations is people finally get answers. They finally get an understanding. And as a result, the world opens up, right? What seems like dark without possibility, suddenly everything becomes brighter.
Absolutely.
And that in of itself is very valuable. So that's the first thing we do, right? We do the consultation. We go over this body composition analysis, which is basically we have a sheet of paper that gives us graphs that breaks down how much of the person is made of fat, how much is made of water, muscle, etc. It gives us a lot of good data that we review. Okay. Then the next thing that we do is, once we decide on the right program for the individual, then they get started. They take care of paperwork, we fill out a contract, and then we do our testing that's done on an iPad. Okay. We have a check sheet for people. Like this is what you're going to do first, this is what you're going to do second, right? So I don't want anyone to be confused. The mantra is, I've been saying this for a while. Everyone laughs when I say this, is I forbid you to think. I don't want people thinking I know how stressful and overwhelming that is, right? So just follow that plan. What we do is we give you everything that you need. We give you a bag with all your supplements or with your food plan, not the food, but the food plan, right? Your journal. What's that?
Recipes for them also.
Recipes, right? So we give you it. And what we want people to do is to go home. There's a video that we text to people. Why text? Everyone opens up their texts. So we text this video to everybody. And the idea is that you watch the video at your own leisure as many times you want. We say do it at least twice with your supplements in front of you. And then we set up a phone call after that to answer any questions.
So it's like a second consultation.
Sometimes, but hopefully not. I mean, 98% of the questions are answered by the videos, right? Oh, yeah. But this process that we've developed, thanks to the pandemic, it's really useful because we used to sit down with a person and go over everything. But that was the first thing that we did. And when we did that, what we found out is the bright people retained 8% of that information. The dull ones, -3. Right? So
it's a lot of information, though.
There's a lot of data. And actually, there is and there isn't, right? The program is very simple to execute, but it's all new.
It is. It's just overwhelming.
It's all, yes, exactly. I think that's what it is. I think that when people, so this is what we have to try to change everyone's thought process, right? I mean, if we're coming to a point where we have to lose weight, we have to get healthy or make changes, we just look for something. Whatever comes up at the top of Google, we assume, well, this is the most searched, so this has to work. So whether it's military diet, gum diet, whatever the most ridiculous thing is that comes up, let's just try this. When they come
what was that second diet?
Gum diet.
That's a thing?
It's a thing now, because when you're chewing, you're taking in air, and then the air fills up your stomach, you feel full. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Okay. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The certain things that I find when I come to researching will blow your mind, and then I kind of go into like, the black hole. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not normal, but we'll do it. But when they come to wanting to make a change in whatever way it is, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, more surgery, for some cases, some people are in dire need. Their health is really on the line. When they come through the door for whatever reason, and they sit down and they get all this, it's almost too much for them to understand that we have such a detailed plan where you don't have to think. It includes absolutely everything plus a guarantee, because everything leading up to them finding us has always been, well, okay, it's not a big deal because it's only $50 a month and whatever, I lost, a pound a week. I gained 6 pounds back, but that's okay. Or they go in, and it's never full circle. It's never full circle. When they come here, it's full circle, and it's almost unbelievable for people to like, is this a real thing? So it becomes overwhelming. It's a lot of information. It's them addressing that their weight gain is not necessarily just the food that they're consuming. It's a lot of other factors. So when we open their eyes, they feel like, oh my gosh.
Well, the other thing is, I think that, as the focus is on application. Mm-hmm. And as easy as the program is to execute, it's still new data.
Yes.
Now, true or false, Corinne, you're trying to actively have less data come at you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
I mean,
I feel like in this age, and I'm sorry, Corinne, I'll let you speak more.
No, it's okay.
Make this point. I feel like in the age we're in, I know I do this, I think everyone does it. This is how people are with information.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. There's just so much coming at us all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like we don't have the bandwidth anymore. So we're trying to not receive information that's new.
Yeah.
Right? Corinne, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I remember the first time I did the program, I actually left the office crying, feeling overwhelmed. And then as the program went on, because we had so much support, you felt like you could actually do it. And you just felt like you could do this, like you could keep going. And that to me has always been our strongest selling point. Like, we have the most amazing coaches around. We don't let you quit. We want you to be successful. Mm-hmm. And that right there is invaluable in and of itself.
It's the accountability. I mean, the accountability matched, of course, that's by far the best. And you could always get support in some way, but the value of what we provide in terms of support, plus the facts, it's a standalone. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing
like it.
I come across nothing compared. And this is from holistic standpoint, a medical standpoint, it's just not the same. It's so personal. And I feel like your health in general should be so personal. And I think a lot of times it's divided. When we discuss wellness journey, health journey, a lot of times people do not put that together with their weight loss journey and losing weight. And it's not always just about losing weight. It's about finding your health again. So when we discuss, like Dr. Arm will get into some short too, like reintroduction phase, there are other phases where we're preparing you for after that, where you'll always need support in some way. But
don't forget the emphasis today is mostly just on the premier. When we talk about the reintroduction and we talk about maintenance, that we can get further about that.
That's a whole nother topic.
Right.
I always find too, like when they're leaving the office, I'm kind of like the last point on the way out. And Jackie knows this too. Like when they're leaving, we're going over everything in their bag and they're looking at me with these big eyes, and looking in the bag and then back up. And I always say it's very overwhelming, but you're going to go home, you're going to read through all your materials. And once you watch the video, it all clicks. And I would say probably 90% of the time, once they realize it's really not that complicated, it just seems like so much, they're in a much better space once they, read through everything and watch the video a couple of times and then have their go over. It's a much more vision of clarity once they're done with all of that. So it may seem like a lot,
1,000%.
And that's why we do it this way, right? We do a piece at a time. So, if we try to give everyone all the information at once, it would be like trying to quench someone's thirst with a fire hose. So before a person leaves, Trish is going over these points. Trish likes this metaphor.
Yeah.
right? So Trish goes over it, right? She gives them some basic pieces, and then the video gives them more. The materials. There's a couple of things to read. Most people don't read, right? So the video is enough. If you never read anything, you could execute the program.
Absolutely.
For people who like to read. So the idea is to feed a person, pardon that metaphor, but feed a person only what they can handle, only a little bit at a time, and just going over it a few times, which is part of the process. You don't have to do anything heroic. You just do what's on that checklist, right? Watch the video twice. Do the phone call, whatever. Doing it that way, people get it, and it's much less overwhelming.
Absolutely.
But there is something else I wanted to bring up, and Jackie kind of touched on it. When we talk about the program, you can't help, even if you're not a holistic type, you can't help looking at weight loss and looking at health and the journey in a holistic way. So, what's meant by that, the word holistic has to do with whole. We are human beings, so our whole selves come to it, right? And that means our physical bodies, that means our emotions, that means all of these things. So I've actually sat down and I've drawn, graphical representations on what people's challenges are and on how we can help that. So we know we're solving the challenge of diet. We know we're solving the challenge of specificity for an individual. We know we're solving the challenge of accountability. We know we're solving those challenges, right? And we keep looking to improve that. So, now we have a great maintenance program. We solve the problem of keeping it off. The problem of mindset, we try to address that. We have mindset material. So basically, and this is a process, right? This is something that's always designed to be improved. The only thing that we don't solve, well, two things. One is the problem of doing it for people, right? Because that's what everyone wants.
Of course.
Right? That's why Ozempic is popular, or weight loss surgery is popular.
But they don't realize there's still not someone doing it for you. They're missing it.
I get it, but that's the button, right? That's being pushed there. So we don't solve that. There is some effort that needs to be taken. The other thing we don't solve, and it's along those lines, is the problem of the preparing of the food. And we've looked into that, and we're going to continue to look at, right? Try to create, partnerships with companies who do that. I don't want to do that myself. I don't see me in an apron preparing 150 meals a day. I don't, that's
and the
not
truth
happening.
is, the only reason why we haven't, considered this whole FinTech Cafe or making this happen is because we haven't been able to find vendors that abide by our restrictions and how clean we prefer our food to be.
Right.
So if it's not up to par, it's not something that we believe in selling to anybody. So if we don't want to settle for anything less than the best, we're not going to give it to our clients.
We'll continue to look for that, right? But again, it's our job to continue to solve these problems. That's how I view myself. There are plenty of guys out there, the Eric Bergs and the people like that. They're heavy into the science and they do a great job with that. I want to be the application person. I want to be the problem solving person. So this is what we're doing. This is how we help people. Did we give enough of an overview on the Premier program?
I think it's a good overview. I think we definitely have to. I would like to touch on phases. We could even reintroduce that next week.
Well, we talked about the two main phases. Now there are other phases, and again, if we're going to talk about all 6 of them, that in of itself sounds overwhelming, and it's not necessarily.
It's not at all, but just for clarity purposes.
Right. We spoke about the first 2, and those are. I mean, they're all important, and a person can have a challenge on any one. I think the best place to leave people is that it's been thought out. You know, each time we find something that a person needs, we try to implement it. A few weeks ago, one of our clients who's awesome and who's done so amazingly well, Stella, Trish,
Yeah.
you know, she said, she's like, you know, these supplements, I don't really understand what each one of them does. You know what you should have? You should have a list and a description of each. Guess what? When she came in next week, we had that.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's available for people to pick up. Now, to be clear about something, not everyone wants that.
No.
They just want to know that it works.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people who want
Yeah.
it, that's available. And that's what we're talking about. Okay. So on that note, I think we should end off.
Sounds good.
All right.
Awesome.
Anything else anyone would like to say?
No, we have
Okay.
more info for next week.
More info. Hopefully fun info that's not too overwhelming.
It's not overwhelming.
Because people aren't allowed to think. Remember.
Don't let it be. Just don't think.
Okay.
AKA that we'll talk about that program next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.